we, as a Problem Solvers Caucus, those 48 members, equally divided between Democrat and Republicans, have been able to come to a consensus. We have a 75% rule within the caucus that says if we get to 75%, we will vote as a bloc to solve the problem before us. And on immigration, we were able to get there. And I think we are reflective of members who want to govern, who want to get to yes. And if we can deploy that on the floor of the House and in the Senate, I think we could solve this.
But how much is it helping or hindering the process? The fact that President Trump seems to be flip-flopping on the issue. One of your own colleagues, Republican Congressman Peter King, called it zigzagging, something like a pinball machine.
Yeah, well, knowing the president very well, and I appreciate at times his style, his disruptive style that he brings to this table, but he's willing to take this issue on. And I think what he also did, though, was by setting a deadline, he actually put the most amount of pressure he could on Congress to get as close as we did to trying to solve this about 2 months ago.
But he changes his mind a lot, in the sense that he said in September that he wanted to reform, in fact, even stop Obama's DACA program. Then he said that he was willing to sign whatever compromise legislation can be crafted, only to go back a few days later and say, no, he won't. How do you deal with this type of uncertainty and confusion, in fact, contradictory statements?
Well, what you have to do is recognize maybe where the major roadblock is on this issue, and that's in Congress. That is in the Senate and the House. And what he is indicating is he wants to have this dealt with legislatively, not by executive order. He wants to have this taken care of from us in the House and the Senate. And we got very close with 54 votes.
Who is mostly to blame? Which part of the aisle?
When I don't blame sides of the aisle. What I blame is the gridlock and extremism of Washington, D.C. The left and the right are beholden to their extreme bases in their parties, and that is stopping so many of these issues from being solved.
What about the president himself, though? Would you say he's also engaging in that type of posturing, in fact, maybe even in extremist behavior by adopting the positions he has on immigration?
Being a New Yorker, I understand the style that he brings to the table. He does, and he's said it publicly before, chaos is kind of one of the tools he deploys. He puts you on your heels so he knows where the positions are. And I see it as more of a negotiating style, not an action of extremism. And I will tell you, if any president that I have met is an ideologue, it's not President Trump. He is willing to cut a deal. He is not beholden to ideology.
But if not an extremist, how would you describe him?
I would say unique and a disruptor.
A disruptor. So where does he leave in his style of disrupting the process? Where does it leave you in Congress, your Republican colleagues and those on the Democratic side who want to resolve this issue, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of dreamers and immigrants who are in a state of limbo? I mean, how much longer can they wait?
Well, that's why I believe inaction is not the appropriate response. And in our district, I have 200 folks that are in the DACA program. Of those 800,000 children that you're referring to. And from my perspective, you know, that shows hopefully that I'm committed to solving this problem, not because of the thousands of people that are potentially impacted in our district, because we just don't have them, but it's the right thing to do.
And in the meantime, what does this extremism, in your own terms, what does it say about the future direction that America has taken? This nation of immigrants, built by immigrants, that has prospered as a result of immigrants being in this country, literally turning its back on its own history.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. How I see it is, you know, we are recognizing in America that we need to fix our immigration policies. We need to fix our borders to make sure that they're functioning, and also fulfilling what borders for purposes of countries do, is to keep us safe as one of our primary missions. So bottom line, we still welcome all. I'm the son of an immigrant, proud son of an immigrant, who came here as a cabin boy on a steamship as a 16-year-old young man. That I'm living the American dream. I want to share that dream with everyone, and that's why I step up to the plate to lead on this issue, to try to come up with to solve this problem of immigration before us.
And do you feel that Trump's plan to build a wall will actually make the U.S. safer or less so?
I believe that having a functioning border, which includes things like a wall, structures, technology, is part of the security mechanisms that any country would expect its government to do to keep it safe. And that is something that I think is a common sense type of approach I bring to the equation. And I think really members who are sincere about this, who want to solve this problem, recognize the threat at the border. They want to fix it, but they also want to make sure that it's functioning so that our immigration population can grow.
But some recent polls suggest that the majority of Americans actually reject the idea of the wall. They're not in favor of it.
I'm not familiar with the polls that you're exactly citing, but I will tell you, if you talk to any American citizen about a border security measure to keep us safe because of the threats that are around the world that are trying to harm not only America but the rest of the world, I think there's realization that we need that type of security measure, be it a wall, be it a structure, be it technology, all of the above, I think, is what most Americans support.
But doesn't this risk turning America into some kind of a gated community?
I don't see that at all. I see America just being what America's always been, a safe, secure place to come to enjoy the American dream and give your kids a better opportunity than what you find it in your home country.
And you mentioned earlier that President Trump has a unique negotiating style. As a congressman, do you feel that it is fair that he would bring in the issue of securing funding for his proposed border wall in exchange for any deal on immigration?
I think that's just being realistic. In order to get that coalition of 60 in the Senate and 218 in the House, recognizing that if you can bring people to the table that maybe their priority is border security, but at the same time willing to address the children and vice versa, that's bringing together a bipartisan coalition. And the best policy out of Washington, D.C. that I found in my history here, as well as history itself, is bipartisan legislation that withstands the test of time.
Finally, Congressman, your thoughts on the way forward. How soon do you think this will be resolved? How hopeful are you?
I'm hoping sooner rather than later, but realistically, we're probably going to, it's being tied up into that extremism and partisan politics. 2018, maybe the election, we have to wait and see to what the outcome is to get a finish line for this.
Maybe even the presidential election in 2020?
That's a possibility too, but my hope, sincere hope is no. I hope we get this done sooner rather than later, and I can only offer my own leadership in our office as saying we want to get it done now, not then.
Congressman Tom Reed, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.